Bonjour, Jane O'Connor and Robin Preiss Glasser. Now that's a fancy way of saying I am so excited to have you here at Borders with us.
Well, thank you, Ruta.
Thank you.
We're excited too.
I've been buying children's books for Borders for a long, long time, and it all started in December of '05 with this one book.
Yes, we know the book.
And a whole industry has been sort of created up from it. So Jane, can you tell us how Fancy Nancy began, where she came from?
Sure. When I was little, I really loved dressing up, and I loved to glitter and sparkle, and Robin still does, although I'm a fairly understated adult now. And every Sunday, my grandmother and my great aunts used to come to visit, and I would hear the doorbell ring and I'd race in my room. Robin's heard this story 80 million times.
I just imagine it.
And I would jump in this pink satin tutu I had, and I had this red cape that I would drape, and I had a pair of my mother's high heels, and I would come traipsing out, you know, to greet my guests, and I thought I was properly attired, and so that's where it came from. And then one night we were having dinner, and I was making dinner, and the title just flew in my head. And after dinner, I started writing, and I got the beginning and the end, but the middle took me a while. So that was really the genesis of it, and just remembering how much fun it would be. And I was always saying to my mother that I wanted her to wear more makeup and more jewelry. And so there was something of Nancy in me.
And you have your first sketches?
Well, I wouldn't even call them sketches, but what I do when I write a picture book is I can't draw at all. So I'm just so lucky that Robin is the illustrator for these books, but I have to map it out on paper for myself. And so this
I have never seen these. Oh my goodness.
You haven't?
No.
Oh, I thought you had.
Oh.
And you can see when I say I'm not an artist that I'm not, you know, just being self-deprecating. And it starts with, here is my room before I decorated it, and it's the plain room. And then here's how she does it when she makes it fancy, so that I can kind of see the way the story unfolds. But it, of course, changed a lot from this initial dummy, but I needed to do that to see if it worked for me.
That's amazing. And then, Robin, how did you get involved in this? Or how did the two of you get together then?
I had gotten the manuscript about 2002, but I was working on a few history books with Lynn Cheney. I did America Patriotic Primer, A is for Abigail. And I had sort of a very tight deadline on those, and I had that sitting there, and I knew I needed to get to it, but I didn't have the time. And one summer, before I started the third in the trilogy of these heavily researched, amazing books that they were amazing projects to work on for all the history that I had to learn. It was fascinating. I said, oh, I have to get to that story. I just love that story. Oh, I could just pop that one out. It's so me. It just hits every button about me. And I literally did it over the summer and sent it in. I had done the cover sketch.
That was the first thing I saw.
And it wasn't Jane's image of how she imagined Nancy would look at all. She imagines
that she would look like me as a little girl, skinny with dark braids.
Braids, yes. And I came up with this sort of, she's completely based on my niece, Jessica, who was a Fancy Nancy. And so I really, a real person was in my mind when I created this character. And I think that's part of how she came alive. She's really alive in my brain, and
She's alive on the page to
She's-
me.
she-
Well, I think she's alive in our whole
Yeah.
society. I think everybody thinks of Fancy Nancy as a real little girl that's walking around somewhere.
Everybody, everywhere we go, people say, "Oh, my niece, or my cousin, my next door neighbor is actually Fancy Nancy."
Who
You
knew?
don't know? Yeah, everybody is.
Who
Who knew that? But because she was based on a real person, I think she came alive for all of us. And
It was our editor, though, who paired us up. We didn't know each other at all, and our editor at HarperCollins, Margaret Anastas, when she got the manuscript, really saw Robin doing the art and no one else. And so Margaret really saw the whole thing together from the start.